So if you follow me on Instagram, which you should, you'll see that most of the time when I'm looking for subjects for this buy or sell segment, I try and get feedback from people who follow me there, and usually about once a week I'll put out this question on my Instagram story about who I should talk about in buy or sell. And I think someone brought up this time a very interesting subject, and that is Bill Belichick. Which I think with Bill Belichick, I mean, this is going to be a little bit different than maybe your typical buy or sell, because it's going to have more than one person in it, and it's going to be more of a topic that's a little bit more broad and more of a less of a person specific, more about a type of card. So it's going to be coaches cards. So Bill Belichick has a card, which you'll see in the graphic here, from a pro set where he was the Browns head coach, and this is actually one of his rookie year coaching cards. And I think the rookie year coaching cards are very interesting because, you know, the coaches, with especially Belichick, and realistically, I think also just as another point that I think you should be thinking about, I don't think this applies to, you know, coaches who maybe only have coached a couple years and maybe aren't as good. Like, I think if you're looking for these coaches cards, you really got to dive deep into, you know, coaches like Belichick. You'll see in the graphic that I included on the screen, there is a Bill Belichick card, but there's also a Phil Jackson card. So the Phil Jackson card, that is his first year coaching with the Bulls. And I think there's two, in my opinion, there's two types of coaches cards. Because like with with a coach like Phil Jackson, he also has a player rookie year from 1972, which back in probably when the Jordan documentary was coming out, I was talking about what cards you should be looking at or what cards you should be trying to flip. And the Phil Jackson 1972 Topps rookie, I think, was one. And I think I bought like a PSA 6 or PSA 7 for about $40, and I think I sold it for around 150. I forget exactly what the flip price was there, but the 72 rookie, I think, was one that was definitely an interesting card. It also was just like old, so like any of these older cards you're more than likely going to have some sort of market that you're looking for. And I think with coaches cards, the thing is, like, you're not going to find too many coaches that have cards that are like this Belichick card or like this Phil Jackson card, because they don't typically make coaches cards. Like, that's kind of one of the other things where with this buy or sell segment, and if you can't tell, I like coaches cards, so I mean, I guess I can just say it now. Coaches cards are going to be a buy for me. And I know that a lot buy or sell typically means that there's sometimes you should be selling, but I think it's, you know, I'm picking people that I like talking about. So the last couple buy or sells have all been buys, and maybe there'll be some sells coming up in the future. But either way, so coaches cards are going to be a buy for me. Now, there's two different types of coaches cards that I think you should be looking out for. There are the actual cards of them coaching, so this Belichick Pro set, and then the hoops card for Phil Jackson. But then Phil Jackson also has a rookie card when he was a player, when he played for the Knicks in 1972. Other coaches that also have cards of when they were players. You're going to look at like a Pat Riley or a Steve Kerr is another example, which actually I think a fun fact is that the Steve Kerr, the rookie for Steve Kerr, like when he was a player, is actually the same year as this Phil Jackson card. So that's one that you should be looking out for. I think long term, these are some great cards that you can look into that if you're looking for maybe an alternative. I think Belichick is, you know, this season didn't go his way, really. If Phil Jackson, he's retired. I mean, Steve Kerr, not exactly going great this season for the Warriors, but, you know, who knows, they could turn it around. I mean, I think the Warriors have a pretty good team. I think with Klay Thompson being out, that's kind of a big deal for the team. Like, it's unfortunate that he's going to be missing the whole year, but I do think that, you know, long term, the Warriors may turn around. I don't know if they're necessarily going to win another championship. If they can bring in maybe another piece and Wiseman turns into kind of a star the way that he's been playing really well this season, and I think he is on his way to compete for Rookie of the Year with LaMelo and maybe Anthony Edwards and maybe Halliburton. But I think if he can kind of turn into a player that has a lot of potential like I think he does right now, that could definitely help the team. And then they're obviously getting Klay Thompson back. And like I said, they could maybe figure out a way to bring in someone else. I don't know if that's a possibility just based off of the salary cap. But, you know, I think Steve Kerr, I think there's also, if you're looking for another, like, coach's card, there's a Greg Popovich in the 2017 Prism set. That's obviously going to not be his like rookie year of coaching, but it's one of his first. It's only, I think, Prism card, and I think there's just the reasons that I like coaches cards. I think I said one of them. They just don't make them very often, so I think there are not rare in a sense, but there aren't many coaches that have these types of cards. So like if you can find one like a Belichick or like this Phil Jackson, I think they're good to look into as an alternative. If maybe you don't want to get into players, and I think the Belichick one is probably the best of them all. I think Belichick and Phil Jackson are kind of on the same level when it comes to their coaching career in obviously different sports, but I think you look at kind of their overall career and how it went and how the championships they won and the players that they were able to coach. I think that they're very similar. I think the Pat Riley and the Steve Kerr are also good. I'm not sure if I'm ready to put Steve Kerr in the conversation with Phil Jackson for top coach of all time. Like definitely not. Like, but I definitely think that like Phil Jackson is easily in the top 5 for basketball coaches of all time, and he may even. I guess you could argue that he is one of the top coaches of all time, but that's kind of something that I think will play out in a few years, maybe if anybody can kind of rise up. But these coaches cards, I think they're great to look into. I think it's just an interesting kind of subgenre of cards that I think there's only a certain amount of them that you're going to be able to find, and I think definitely something that is fun to look into and something that you should be looking into. So coaches cards, those are going to be a buy for me.